All right, Amanda. So we finally got together for this podcast, and I must say I want to say we met virtually first, if I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong, a
Mhm.
while ago, and then we recently just met at an event back in March, or maybe it was here April, uh, in person. And I know we were in another group as well, and it was great to sit down and you and I had lunch together. We weren't part of the other group, but we were right there. We were right next to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, it opened up the conversation. We got to talk and got to learn more little bit about each other then, and here we are. Months later, having a connection and talking about what you're doing and what I'm doing and how we can work together. With you in a podcast and you hosting events and doing everything like that. So I would love for you to share more about that stuff. But first, I want to know more about Amanda, right? And so, besides what you're doing now, what are you most excited for at this moment?
Oh gosh, what am I not excited about?
Here we go.
So obviously, being in the world that I'm in of travel, I always had a goal at a younger age to travel a lot. And I am looking at my life right now and I'm like, thank you, God, because I really am traveling a lot. I actually counted on my calendar for the rest of this year. I'm traveling 12 more times. And that's absolutely crazy with it being the end of August and there's 4 months left in the year. So that's honestly what I'm most excited about is seeing new places. And I love getting to just see new destinations, new locations, new resorts, because then I can provide that firsthand experience to my clientele of what my experience was so that they can have that same experience as well. So that's what I'm most excited about. I'm actually going to Turks and Caicos in like 3 days. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, cool. So you're just going to feel it all out. You go into different resorts and stuff while you're at the same place?
Yep.
Okay.
You're correct. Yes. Yes. And then it's a tax write off,
Of course.
getting
Wait,
work
yeah,
done while you play.
yeah, sure. Uh, but this wasn't Amanda's life forever, right? We
No.
got here now. So let's go back in time wherever you want to make that be, right? And let's bring up something that, you had to get through to get to where you are today. And, I don't know, it could have been recently, it could have been something when you were a child, but let's just start with one thing that you can think of that you would love to share with everybody.
Yeah, so I have like 20 years of trials and tribulations from like actually like my middle school years until even just up to present. But one thing that really affected me, and still to this day, I believe is still affecting me because I've realized that recently as well. I haven't completely healed from that trauma. So when I was about 20 years old, I met a guy. Now, mind you, at this time I already had my daughter. She was almost 2 years old. So I had already been in a relationship before that. But I had met a guy, and when I met him, I thought he was just the cutest thing in the world. I mean, at 20 years old, you don't look at anything like what's their personality like? Are they going to be a good provider for the family? Are they going to be someone that's going to take care of you, etc. You just go, oh, they're cute, cool, I'm good, they're good. So when I met him, we were actually at a bar, and he was extremely intoxicated, and I was like, he's the one for me. Red flag right there, right? So things really hit off with us very, very quickly. We both just kind of just fell in love. I say more lust is really what it was. And I would say within the first 6 months of us dating, things were pretty good because you're in that honeymoon phase whenever you first start dating, right? But shortly after that, because we would go out and we'd be drinking a lot and all of the things that would come with that, whenever you get in an argument, sometimes voices can rise and things like that, especially when you've been drinking. And so it started to escalate. We would get in arguments when we would get back to the house after being out drinking, and then it started getting worse where we would start throwing things at each other. We grab a coffee cup off the table and throw it at each other. And then it started becoming more aggressive where he would put his hands on me and me vice versa. And as that time went on, it just progressively got worse to where the cops were called at the house. And um, I really started to evaluate our relationship and wonder if this was something I was supposed to be in. But then I found out I was pregnant. And then it was like, okay, well, I got to make this work, because if I don't, my daughter already, her dad's not in her life. And then I'm about to have another child. I don't want to have a completely broken home. So we we tried to continue to work things out with each other. And during this time, I actually lived close to my parents, and my parents were actually being called to move to another country. And I was a kid growing up where I was very close to both my mom and dad. So throughout my life, I have always lived very close. Like even to this day, right now, I think I live 15 minutes away from them. I'm just very close to my family. I'm very family oriented. So when I was 6 months pregnant, my parents actually got transferred over to the Netherlands, which is literally halfway across the world. And so I was left alone being pregnant and with my 4-year-old daughter with an abusive man. So we ended up moving away from the community that we were in because he wanted to be closer to his job. And when he moved me away, I had no support system at all. And during that time, the abuse continued to escalate even during my pregnancy and even after my pregnancy, to where the cops were at the house on a normal basis. And so throughout that time, I really realized that I missed my family a lot and I wanted to escape. So I actually reached out to my parents and I asked them, hey, I need to get out of this situation. My son was a little over a year old and my daughter was 5 at the time. And I was like, I have to get away. So my parents actually bought my plane tickets and I packed up my stuff and took off and went to the Netherlands. And I stayed there for 3 months because the max you can stay in the Netherlands is for a visa is 3 months. So I went over there and I was like, all right, I'm going to come back to the US. I'm going to restart my life. I moved in with one of my aunts. And of course, I got lonely and allowed him back into my life again. Because being a single mom raising 2 young children, it's tough. It's really tough. So I allowed him back into my life, and allowing him back in, of course, the abuse didn't stop because there was still a lot of alcohol that was involved. There was a lot of alcohol. And the abuse just continued to escalate and escalate and escalate. And I'm going to give you a little bit of like a story of something that I personally went through. One night, there was a lot of drinking going on. We had some friends over, and I had asked my kid's dad, or excuse me, my son's dad's name is Billy. So that when I reference Billy, you'll understand who that is. I had asked Billy if I could go ahead and go out and hang out with some friends, and he could stay and watch the kids, because at that time he really didn't have any babysitters to watch the kids, and he got really upset. And so my friend that was actually there was walking down the hallway to give me my shoes. He was one of my gay friends. And Billy punched him right in the nose and like knocked him out. He just was like flat on the ground, knocked out. And of course, I was upset. I jumped on Billy and was like, I guess I must have scratched him on his neck or something. So I called the cops. He called the cops. Cops showed up. My friend would not press charges against him because he was too inebriated and he didn't want to cause any kind of problems of any sort. So the police were there and they said, okay, well, this is a domestic situation. Someone is going to jail tonight. So they took each of us aside, interviewed both of us. Come to find out, Billy had a tiny little scratch on his neck, and they said, who did that to you? He pointed to me. So the police said, Amanda, you're going to jail tonight. And I was like, I wasn't the cause of all this. How is it I'm going to jail? And that night, while I was sitting in the jail cell, laying on this cold, dark floor, I just cried my eyes out thinking, how did I get here? Because my children did not deserve a mom that's going to be in prison or in jail, whatever it might be. They don't deserve to be surrounded by a man that is abusing their mother. And so when I went home, I decided that it was time for me to change my life. So we separated for a while. And of course, I brought him back into my life again. And this continued to escalate, where we would like be together, not be together, be together, not be together. And this was like 8 years worth. And so in July of 2017, my parents actually moved home from the Netherlands to the United States. And I was getting ready to graduate with my associate's degree. And so they said, hey, Amanda, We would like for you to come live with us so you can escape and get away. And so I ended up packing up all my stuff and moved away. And honestly, like I look back and I'm so grateful, because if my son would have been continued to be raised in a household like that, I couldn't even imagine who he would be today. I think he would be a lot like his father, and his father hasn't been in his life a lot, which is great, because I would not want him to be anything like him. So honestly, that's a little tiny snippet of my story that I kind of just skimmed over. I could really dive deeper into it, but I know we don't have like 5 hours to talk about all of this. So yeah, that's a little bit of some things that I've been through and that I'm still currently healing from, and trying to give forgiveness to.
Right. And so how do you work on that? How do you start healing from that?
So this is a topic I do love to talk about. Obviously, talking about my story just sometimes gives me sweats, because it's like you brings you back to that terrible time. But healing for me, I start every single one of my days in God's word and in prayer. And forgiveness comes from giving your life to God. Because if you think about it, the Lord first forgave us. We are sinners. We are born as sinners. We constantly are wanting to take care of ourselves and not give to others and not give to God. And so, starting my day in God's word and praying and giving over my stresses, my worries, my frustrations, my unforgiveness that I have, has helped me be able to be, I guess, more present and more happy, more joyful, even during the days where joy can be really hard to find. That has helped me slowly begin to heal. And to be very honest, I realized just over this past weekend, because I was traveling, that I still am carrying a lot of resentment towards my son's dad, because it's not something you can easily let go. Where you were abused and just beaten down to the pulp in so many ways, to where I had like bruises on my ears, like blood and all the things that came with it. And my kids seeing that too, that I'm still kind of holding on to that. And so that's something that I've had a lot of conversations with God about just over literally the last week, of like, God, why is it I'm still not completely healed? Why have I not let go? Why am I still holding these grudges? Help me to forgive. And so as I have these conversations with God, it allows me to realize that I am still broken. And I don't think I don't think we ever are fully healed. We won't be fully healed until we're in heaven and have that new body where, we're in the new earth and in heaven with God. So I have to realize that, and then understand that with the brokenness, if I continue to carry that brokenness into my next relationship, I'm just going to push away every single man that comes into my life that could really be that right person for me. So it's just been something I've really been working through, honestly, even just today, to be honest, like throughout the day today. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
being very blunt.
no, that's great. I appreciate the honesty, and that's what it's all about, right? So you're asking God, you're seeking advice from him. Are you also talking to somebody like a therapist or anything as well?
I have never actually sat down with a therapist, and I really feel that that's probably something I need to be doing. I put both of my kids in therapy and never have taken care of myself as a woman and as a mom. I
Mhm.
feel like we tend to forget about taking care of ourselves, that we're always trying to pour into everyone else. And sometimes we pour out of an empty cup. And honestly, like, I feel like you're giving me some advice that I need to seek therapy. So yes, I probably do need to, honestly, but no, I have not.
Well, this is therapy for you right now.
Yeah,
So
it is. It is.
yeah, it is. I say that because people come on, they just spill the beans sometimes, and then they don't even know what they're saying sometimes, and they're like, I can't believe I said that. Um,
It's kind of how I feel
but
right now. I'm like, I'm just like word vomit.
nah, you're good. And so yeah, I mean, like you're struggling, and this is how long ago that this is still bothering you?
So when I left that relationship was in 2017, and we're in 2025. So it's been 8 years. Yeah, about 8 years. So
Yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and so you mentioned how like you need to work on this, and then maybe eventually find that right person, and you want to be healed, not broken, right? but as you said, we're not always going to be healed, right?
Yeah.
Completely. So
Mhm.
it's going to be that person that either is on the journey to being healed and you can work on it together, or has already done all the work, right? And gets it and understands everything that's going on. Like
Yeah.
that's what I think it's going to be. And so as you keep on moving forward, you know, trying to work on yourself, that person is going to just show up and you don't know where, right? You don't know when.
Mhm.
Who knows? It could be on one of your trips to resorts. I have no idea, right?
You never know.
No, you don't know. So don't, don't think you have to be fully healed, right? Because then you're just postponing everything.
Hmm.
So that's what I think. I think you just got to you're focusing right now on your whole business of helping entrepreneurs and stuff and have these retreats and everything and
Yeah.
like I've seen it like it's been months and you blew up like you're blowing up going all over and and helping clients and everything so and I know you work on everything so you're carrying that all with you as you keep going on these
Mhm.
trips
Yeah.
um and you're alone I would imagine for the most part.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like, especially with where when I travel, most people travel with their family or they're traveling with their spouse or significant other.
Mhm.
And so being single now for over 3 years, it's still something that I struggle with, but I know that God's working in me. So to be like I'm about to be really transparent and honest and open. I went to Punta Cana this past weekend and I thought I had met somebody that was going to be perfect for me. And it opened up a lot of wounds, a lot of like my issue with trust because I've been cheated on, I've been abused, I have had, money stolen from me from men in the past. And I realized that I still really struggle with who I am as a person and my identity and being able to give trust to someone that I barely know. And so that brought up a lot of wounds that I'm really trying to navigate through right now. And I've been very emotional over the last couple of days because it's like, wow, I thought I was ready. I've been healing now for like 3 years from my divorce, which we didn't talk about that relationship. That's a whole nother issue in my life that we don't need to crack that Pandora box open right now. Um, but I'm realizing that I'm still very, very sensitive and just not quite ready for a relationship, which I thought I was. I really did. And God goes, no, Amanda, you need to step back and still take care of you because you're still struggling with trusting someone.
Yeah, trust is kind of hard, right?
It is. It really is. Cause you just have
Yeah.
to go, okay, here's my heart. Like, please don't break it.
Yeah, and so I mean, I, so I personally I haven't been with anybody for 3 years or whatever, and it's just like I'm not. It's gonna be when that right time comes.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like sitting down and just having these conversations in person with people,
Mhm.
and if they want to take it and spin it and do it, so even if it's not somebody you're interested in, like we're having this conversation now, and who knows who's going to listen or watch this, right?
Right.
Um, but you're just being you and you're just showing up and if they want to twist it in some way that's them, that's their problem. And it's not you, and that's what we have to work on too, not taking things personally.
Yeah.
And it's all it's a work in progress, right? And you're getting there, and you're not alone. Obviously, there's other people out there dealing with all this too, but they think they're alone. So you being
Mhm.
vulnerable, open up here and wherever you decide to share this, not just this conversation, but with whoever you're talking to about the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, like that's great. That's what you need. That's what you need to do, and I think that's how you're going to find your healing. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, and asking God, talking to God is great. And maybe we're supposed to be talking right now about all this. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like maybe this is perfect timing, right? Everything was postponed for months and John's calendar filled up or whatever. And now here you are.
God
Um,
has a reason for everything. I always say God closes one door and opens and he closes one door for another door to be opened that's even better for you. And so, like, as you're saying this, I honestly think it's true because God knew I was going to need healing today because I've honestly been like super emotional. I've cried a lot. I literally got no sleep last night. I am like running on fumes because it's 6:30 my time, and I'm like barely getting through this interview. But God goes, you know what? This is the time where you're going to just talk to John, and you're just going to open up that emotional baggage that I'm holding in because I haven't been able to really share it with anyone, and now the world is going to get to hear all about my baggage.
Yeah, right.
But
Well,
isn't
we
that what
only have we have
podcasting
a
is for?
limited time for this one. Oh man. But okay, so you navigated, like, I hate hearing abusive relationships. I really do, right? It sucks. Because I'm not that person, and I to hear it that you went through it, and unfortunately you kept calling it back in a way, but not seeing
Yeah.
it was going to come back. So how would you suggest to somebody else how they can kind of get out, kind of, figure out
Mm.
that first step to say, hey, I'm done. I'm done for good.
Now it is a hard vicious cycle, and really honestly, I can't necessarily say this is exactly what you need to do because everyone has their own path when it comes to this. But I guess the first step, because when I look back at my life, I really hid a lot of the things I was going through because I was embarrassed. And so, what I recommended for someone that is going or currently in an abusive situation, or trying to get out of it, whatever it might be, just to talk to someone, whoever you feel comfortable with, like a pastor, your best friend, your parents. I mean, a lot of people, like for me, I did not want to really talk to my parents about this because I got a lot of I told you so. Um, Talk to a sibling, talk to someone, and ask for help because you can't do it on your own. And that was the first step for me. Is I reached out to my parents, and mind you, I had already like moved to the Netherlands and back, and still allowed him back into my life. But the last time that I did it, where I said, hey, mom and dad, I'm ready to go, I ended up moving states away and started over. Now, mind you, I got in another relationship that was really toxic, but I was out of that abusive situation. So the step I would recommend is just talk to someone and ask for help. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Really, just don't be afraid.
Yeah. Now I'm sitting here thinking that people are afraid right now, and I would say that they're
Yeah.
afraid of it getting worse because they find out that you're trying to leave them, or you're talking to so and so about your relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, would you agree? Like that's what a lot of women
Yes.
and maybe men too, they
Yep.
don't say
Yep.
nothing, right?
Mm-hmm. And honestly, whenever you do reach out to someone, because I used to volunteer for a helpline and for crisis helpline here in St. Louis, Missouri. And when people would call in and they would tell me that they were in that situation, the best thing to do is to come up with an escape plan of this is what I'm going to do and have everything set in place. Now, you don't want to keep this anywhere written down or in your phone. This needs to really just be something you have in your memory of this is the steps I'm going to take, and figuring out how to make sure all of those steps are going to happen so you can get out, and make sure that you have a good support system that's going to surround you and take care of you. Because for me, leaving my abuser, I had no job, I had no money, I had no place to stay. I really didn't have anything, but my parents took me in. They helped pay for things, helped me find a job, helped me find a place to live on my own. So having that support is so, so important. I recommend to find someone that's going to be able to support you and allow you to have a place to stay, so that you don't go back to your abuser. Because that was the thing for me is I would go live with someone temporarily and then go get into my own place. And I was still very close in the area, in the vicinity of where he was. And then I would call him back because it's like, okay, well, I got to work tonight and I don't really have anybody. And this is the father of my child. I know he'll come watch the kids. So I would call him back, and then the cycle would start again because I still loved him. He was the father of my child. It's really hard to let go when you have that, when you have a human being that it came from two people. You know what I mean? It's very hard to let go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's familiar to you, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you always, I guess maybe there's more love there for you wanting to have that, make that relationship work. I can't
Mhm.
speak for him, uh, but and that's why you kind of hung in there a little bit. Let's just see what
Mhm.
happens. But then would you also,
Yeah.
you don't have to go into this or anything, but would you agree or say that there could have been something from your childhood past that kind of said, yes, this is how my relationship should be, and this is love?
For sure. Um, at the age of 10, and this was the beginning of the cycle of me feeling like my identity was always in a man. At the age of 10, my family, or my parents, excuse me, they befriended a family that had 4 kids, and one of the boys was a year older than me. And I was a tomboy growing up. So I always hung out with all the boys. I loved to do all the boy things. Like I loved to run around barefoot. I wasn't really like a girly girl, but I wasn't. And so I always wanted to hang out with the boys because they were more fun. They always like to do more fun things. And so my parents would leave us at home with the oldest daughter of that family when they would go out and go to get dinner, watch a movie, whatever it might be, when they go do the couples thing. And so all of us kids would be in the house. And when we'd be left alone, sexual abuse actually started at the age of 10. And so I didn't really know what that was until I got older. In my teen years, I told my parents, and my parents were actually very shocked. They had no idea that that was going on. I think it was for about 4 or 5 years. And they told the other family, the parents of the boy, and they said, there's no way our son could have done that. And that severed the relationship. And I think I knew that if I said something to my parents, that that would happen. And that's why I kept it to myself for so long. And I also thought that that was just how it was. Like, if, because I liked him, I had a crush on him. I thought he was so cute, whatever. Like, and so I thought that that was his way of showing me love, and that a man abusing me is the way that love is supposed to be shown to a woman.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's how things stick.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're trying to work on things now, and it's all those years in the past. So it's
Mhm.
kind of hard to put all that into 3 years or, a little bit more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad to hear that you're working on it, right?
Oh,
That
yeah.
that yeah.
Think I need to hire a therapist though. You're this is a little bit of therapy right now, but I actually need to like literally hire one.
Yeah, it's and so yeah, and I can't recommend anybody or anything like that, but I know there's stuff online, and there's definitely help out there, right? And
Yes,
this
for
can go
sure.
for whoever's watching or listening, like it. And I know you mentioned the hotline or you were on the
Yeah.
call and everything and
Mhm.
so forth. But there's a lot of stuff out there. Like I didn't speak to this woman yet, but she was at the event I was just at, and she's all about domestic violence, trying to help. And yeah, raise awareness for it because it's out there and
Yeah.
it's not, people don't hear and see it when it's actually happening. It's just after the fact.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's unfortunate. Um, yeah, so I'm glad that you came on and you're being open and vulnerable and diving into all this. Who knew this is where it was going to go, right?
You just went way down into a rabbit hole.
I love rabbit holes, right? Eventually they come out. So um, now you're like on this mission. You're helping entrepreneurs and stuff, and starting these retreats. Like, what inspired you to start doing that?
Oh gosh. Okay, so a little background about me for anybody that's listening. We haven't really talked or dived into what it is I do. So I'm a travel advisor and been doing this now for 4.5 years. And I started out with working with couples, which, like me being like single, I was like, that's gross. I don't want to work with couples. And I was families. I'm like, I don't like family travel. So I actually reached out to God and said, God, this is your business. This is not mine. What do you have for me? I literally have this sticky note sitting on my desk. It says, God is the CEO of my businesses. I actually have more than one, but um, and the Lord said to me that He wanted me to collaborate with other business professionals, speakers, coaches, CEOs of companies, and help them create transformational experiences for their clients, for their customers, for their employees, whatever it might be, and that I would be their right hand wing woman to make sure that everything runs smoothly for them. Because I have actually hosted events myself in the past. I've done little mini retreats in the past, and I did everything on my own. And doing everything on your own without somebody helping you, it's very overwhelming. And when all of the crazy crap happens as the event is happening and you have to deal with all of that, and you don't have someone in your corner taking care of it, it's very stressful. And you can't give 100% to everyone that's attending your retreat, summit, event, whatever it might be. And so I realized that there was a need for that. And so that's where I am today. And it's fun because I love to collaborate. When two or more people come together, especially entrepreneurs, we have a whole different mindset than typical 9-to-5ers. When we come together and we can just collaborate and talk through the experience that they're wanting to have, and I can give my ideas and they give their ideas, and we just mesh that all together with my experience and then their vision, something really cool happens. And so I thoroughly enjoy it because I know I'm put on this earth to help grow the kingdom of God. And through these transformational experiences where I'm working with kingdompreneurs, faith-based coaches and speakers and business owners, where they're able to pour into the people that are coming to these events, transformation happens. People are coming to Christ. People are rededicating their life to Christ. People are finding their aha moment of what it is they want to do with their life. And I had that happen with me. And I want to be able to help create that and be the professional behind all of it to make sure it runs smoothly for the retreat leader.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so you've been doing a lot lately, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, traveling and stuff and
Hmm.
doing all that. So how does somebody like reach out and connect? Oh, let's add podcasters on there too, on your list of entrepreneurs or whatever you just mentioned. Okay.
Yeah. That's true.
So
Podcast with business owners, right?
yeah, okay. If you want to put us there, that's fine.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, technically, I consider you
eh,
are a business owner because you have like your own thing outside of this helping people with starting
sure.
podcasts. So
Er,
you are a business owner.
Okay. All right. I'm
Most
categorized. It's okay.
podcasters have a business behind their podcast. So yes, yeah. But you're right. I will say podcasters from here on out. Thanks for that tip. But how
Yeah,
can
just
they
for
reach
fun.
me?
Yes.
So I have a website, acrossthehorizontravel.com, and then I am on LinkedIn. It's Amanda Hietter. I'm literally the only Amanda Hietter out there because my name is very unique. And then my Instagram and Facebook aren't really super travel related because I have decided to dip my toes into multiple avenues of income because as an entrepreneur, don't we want to have 7 streams of income so we can be that multimillionaire that everyone says that we can be? So if you find me on Instagram or Facebook, you might be like, what is this that she's doing? But would love to share that too. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Cool. And I don't know when this is going to actually get, aired out, but are you planning on having something else come out soon?
I am. So I actually, and this probably won't be relevant, but I actually have an event coming up this Thursday, August 28th, called Rooted in Resilience. I have 4 guest speakers, and it's about building unshakable businesses in uncertain times. I will be putting it on YouTube for anybody that has paid for the VIP portion of it. But then if, this is obviously going to be past then, I do have another event that's in September that is all about finding the perfect accommodations for a retreat. I believe it's September 17th. Don't quote me on that. I have so much going on my schedule that I usually only look at the day ahead of most of the time because I'm just such a busy person. But it's a $97 course where you can jump on with me for an hour and a half and learn how to find that perfect accommodation, resort, villa, whatever it might be. And I have a vetted property checklist that I go through and just talking through how to make that experience be perfect for attendees for a retreat because the accommodations are the start of it. And you want to make sure that that foundation is set and that's perfect before you start building off of that.
Yeah. And you help people from beginning to end, right? Even
Correct.
thereafter. Right.
Yes, correct. And I even offer like where I can come in and like the day of the event, be there like a little fly on the wall, making sure everything runs smoothly as the event is going on, retreat, summit, whatever it might be.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Mhm.
I have one question I ask everybody because I know you
Okay.
listen to every episode I have, right? So you already know this, but what are what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
Three key things I have learned and used on my journey. One, start your day off with gratitude. I have this little notebook right here and this is probably like the 20th notebook that I have, where I write 5 things I'm grateful for over the last 24 hours. And most of them are pretty simple, like the sun is shining. I have my coffee this morning, whatever it might be. Two, it's so important to make sure to pour into yourself before pouring into others. I know most of these people listening to this podcast probably have very busy lives. And if you're not pouring into yourself each and every day, how on earth do you expect to pour into others? So I always spend time every morning where I'm stretching, doing my yoga. I pray, I read my Bible, I journal my gratitude, and then I start my day. And three, take a Sabbath day once a week. That is so important for me, to make sure that I have one day where I am not on social media. I am not working. I am spending time with my family because, especially being a mom of kids, I have seen how they've grown up so quickly. And I wish I would have done that years ago. This is something I implemented over the last couple of years of my life. And I missed out on so much because I was such a workaholic. And so now I implement that, where I have that one day where it's I'm spending time with my family, spending time with God, and pouring back into myself.
So you're learning to be present.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
hard with these suckers though, you know?
I know. I agree. But yeah, it's something we just like have to throw away sometimes and just, business life isn't all about that.
Mhm.
Everything was different before that came around. That was for
Yeah.
sure.
And we lived in that generation of like no
Yeah.
cell phones, now cell phones.
Yeah, you had to go home and wait for your friend to call you on the phone at the house, or you had to call them,
Uh-huh.
or it's your friend driving by with the bike and say, "Hey, so and so home? Can they come out and play?" It's like it was
Yep.
that. It
Yep.
was all that, and yeah.
Those were the
So
days.
I know, right? So yeah, I know. Uh, I don't know what our kids would do nowadays. They just be like,
I
got to
have
twist
no
their
idea.
arm anymore. Yeah.
They would die.
But but I agree with what you had to say. Separate yourself for a while. Now, when I do take my dog, I don't take my phone with me. When I take her for a walk, it's just like, and it's it's that time, right? And you
Yeah.
just unwind and get away from everything.
Mhm.
Um, so I encourage whoever is watching and listening to this to try to break that down and find that one day or a couple hours if you could, start somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Um, I'm sure you had to start somewhere too, and you had to find that one moment and just grow from there. And
exactly.
go on a trip to all these resorts or whatever, right? Um,
I still work though, so sometimes
ah,
I find
yeah,
myself working too much, and it's like, Amanda, shut it off. Enjoy your time in this beautiful destination.
that's right. No, that's cool. Amanda, I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you shared what we went through. Yes, we didn't touch everything because I know you mentioned the word divorce and we didn't touch on anything on that. And who knows what else, right? So maybe we'll have to have you come back sometime down the road here and share more and everything else you have coming up. So thank you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Ah, you're welcome.